Before Grease became one of the most beloved movie musicals ever, it was a hit stage show celebrating 1950s teen culture, leather jackets, pompadours, and doo-wop beats. Producer Alan Carr envisioned a film that would blend nostalgia and modern flair. He cast John Travolta, fresh off Saturday Night Fever, and the angelic-voiced Olivia Newton-John, then added an electrifying supporting cast. The result was a high-energy, feel-good romp that turned into a global phenomenon. Decades later, Grease remains a cultural touchstone, often re-released, rewatched, and re-sung by generations who can't resist its toe-tapping charm. Let's look under the hood at the film's lesser-known stories. 1. Olivia Newton-John was nearly 29 and unsure she could play a teen. One of the film's toughest challenges was casting Sandy. Producers mulled over various names, including Marie Osmond, who carried a sweet, wholesome image. Ultimately, they zeroed in on Olivia Newton-John after a hushed screen test. She was nearly 29 at the time and worried about passing for a teenager among an already older-looking cast. But her sunny disposition and singer's voice matched the fresh innocence they wanted for Sandy. The producers, sensing that an Aussie country pop star might draw big crowds, took the plunge. Newton-John later admitted she felt anxious about both her age and her minimal acting experience, but her gentle charm won the day. 2. Travolta campaigned to play Danny Zuko after Saturday Night Fever. John Travolta was no stranger to Grease. On stage, he'd once played Doody, not Danny Zuko. But after the monstrous success of Saturday Night Fever, Paramount viewed him as the perfect lead. Travolta's disco swagger meshed surprisingly well with the slick-haired, braggadocious persona of Danny. Some critics were unsure if he could pivot from Tony Manero's gritty Brooklyn dancing to the comedic bubblegum of a 1950s high school flick, but Travolta saw it as a return to his musical theater roots. He approached the role as part teenage rebel, part charismatic crooner, bridging old-school rock and roll with his brand of flamboyant moves. 3. The cast was hilariously older than real high schoolers. The age gap among the cast was famously glaring. Stockard Channing, playing bad girl Rizzo, was 33, while Michael Tucci, Sonny, clocked in at 31. Even Jeff Conaway, playing Kanicki, was pushing 27. To them, it was comedic. Adults, well past high school age, wearing Letterman jackets and cheerleading skirts. But the creative team decided that strong performances mattered more than chronological youthfulness. The real question was whether the cast could sell that restless teenage vibe. Their solution was raw energy, comedic flair, and a refusal to overthink wrinkles or receding hairlines. Audiences clearly didn't mind, as the film soared beyond initial predictions. 4. The T-Birds weren't always called the T-Birds. In the original stage musical, the T-Birds were the Burger Palace Boys. The producers felt that moniker lacked cinematic oomph. They wanted something sharper, a name that conjured engine revs and tough leather jackets. The shift to T-Birds gave the group a slick, vaguely rebellious ring, befitting a big-screen adaptation. The grease in Grease, ironically, was less about hamburgers and more about the pomade in their hair, an aesthetic choice that meshed perfectly with T-Bird's swagger. 5. Henry Winkler turned down the role of Danny and regretted it. Before John Travolta locked in the role, Paramount approached Henry Winkler, then riding high as the Fonz on Happy Days. Winkler feared forever being trapped in the cool greaser type. He worried that playing Danny would seal that fate. In the end, he passed, only to watch Grease become a cultural juggernaut. Years later, Winkler joked that declining the role was his biggest professional regret, but it's likely the film benefited from having a fresh leading man, and Winkler's refusal helped shape Travolta's breakout image. 6. Summer Nights was shot at a real high school with real students. Summer Nights, that breezy duet about the fling between Danny and Sandy, was filmed at Venice High School's athletic field. Extras included real local teens, many of whom believed they were just attending a typical pep rally day. The production whipped them into a frenzy, capturing joyous crowd shots. For hours, they repeated choreographed dance moves under the blazing sun while Travolta and Newton-John belted out the iconic tune. Talk about an elaborate pep rally. These unknowing students left that day not realizing they'd become part of movie musical history. 7. Travolta insisted on being filmed from his good side. During Sandy, Travolta insisted on being filmed primarily from his left profile. He believed that was his good side, a quirk rumored since his Saturday Night Fever days. Director Randall Kleiser indulged him, angling the camera to favor that viewpoint. Observant viewers might notice the camera rarely breaks that angle during the number, turning it into a cinematic in-joke about star vanity. Travolta wasn't being difficult. He truly thought it captured his best expressions. In the end, the shot composition contributed to the fluid swoon of the scene. 8. Olivia's skin-tight pants ripped, and she was sewn into them. Olivia Newton-John's iconic black pants in the finale were a wardrobe headache. They were so tight that one day the seam ripped during a dance rehearsal. The wardrobe department hastily stitched her into them each morning, meaning she couldn't remove them until the day's wrap. Newton-John found the glued-in feeling claustrophobic, but endured it for the effect. That outfit's transformation from innocent Sandy to seductive bad girl remains one of the film's top wow moments. 9. Greased Lightning originally belonged to Kenickie. Greased Lightning initially belonged to Kenickie in the stage version, but Travolta, sensing a surefire showstopper, argued that leading man Danny should handle it. Jeff Conaway, who played Kenickie, reluctantly agreed to let it go. For him, it was a stinging compromise. He felt overshadowed by Travolta's star power. But the shift gave the film a signature Travolta-driven performance. Conaway's frustration was real, though, and some say it fueled tension on set. Nonetheless, the scene became a highlight, featuring comedic leaps and dynamic camera angles that showcased Travolta's effortless swagger. 10. Jeff Conaway suffered injuries during intense dance scenes. Conaway endured real injuries from the repeated dance lifts in Greased Lightning. He also starved himself to maintain a lean physique, something he'd later admit contributed to long-term health woes. He was proud of the result on screen, but behind the scenes, it was grueling. In an era before rigorous stunt coordination, these dance stunts were borderline risky. Conaway's battered state exemplified how the cast's devotion to nailing every high kick sometimes came at a physical cost. 11. Stockard Channing dyed and damaged her hair for Rizzo. Stockard Channing, significantly older than a typical high school senior, dyed her hair darker to fit Rizzo's edgy persona. The daily styling wreaked havoc on her locks, so she wore partial wigs or styled hairpieces. Offset, she sported hats or scarves to hide the damage. That ironically matched Rizzo's tough veneer. Channing felt it helped her become the unapologetic, brazen character fans love. She also tapped into Rizzo's snarky lines with relish, fueling the moral friction between Rizzo's rebellious stance and Sandy's angelic presence. 12. The Thunder Road drag race was filmed in the L.A. River. Thunder Road's drag race was filmed at the Los Angeles River's concrete basin. At night, it's eerie, graffiti-splashed walls, the echo of water trickling. The scene demanded precision driving at high speeds, plus a partial ramp to create the near-miss shot where one car nearly plunges into the water. The film crew found it mesmerizing, capturing the echoes of revving engines under the city's glow. For decades, local gearheads made pilgrimages to that spot, reliving the film's rebellious showdown in real life. 13. The gym dance-off nearly melted the cast under stage lights. The big gym dance-off sequence, complete with swirling poodle skirts and sideburn-sporting greasers, was choreographed by Patricia Birch. She insisted on maximum energy for every shot, pushing the cast until they collapsed from the heat. The overhead lights turned the gym into a sauna, surpassing 100 degrees. Extras fainted left and right. The set provided fans and water stations to prevent total meltdown. Yet that punishing environment lent the scene an authentically sweaty, pulsating vibe. On screen, it's a jubilant swirl of pastel dresses and foot-stomping rock, but behind the scenes, it was a sweaty test of endurance. 14. You're the One That I Want was written just for the film. You're the One That I Want, a pop-forward duet, never appeared in the stage show. It was composed for the movie to modernize the third act. Paired with Hopelessly Devoted to You, these new tunes injected a more contemporary vibe into the 1950s setting. The soundtrack soared on the charts, pulling the film along with it. People who'd never planned to watch a musical found themselves grooving to that infectious chorus on the radio, cementing Grease as a cross-generational smash. 15. Olivia struggled to embody Bad Sandy, but nailed it. Olivia Newton-John labored to master Bad Sandy's confident stride and seductive body language. She was known as the sweet, wholesome Sandy throughout filming, so the shift in the final act felt daunting. The black outfit, teased hair, and spike heels were a far cry from her comfort zone. Castmates rallied around her, shouting, "Go for it!" whenever the cameras rolled. Ultimately, her transformation from naive wallflower to sizzling vamp gave Grease its ultimate payoff. Fans left theaters raving about that climactic reveal. 16. Sid Caesar improvised many of Coach Calhoun's lines. Sid Caesar, playing Coach Calhoun, drew on his comedic TV background to ad-lib lines about discipline and sports. He'd toss out quips or fatherly advice off the cuff, prompting real giggles from the teen cast. This spontaneity kept scenes lively. Caesar's comedic presence added a dash of old-time showbiz sparkle, grounding the high school in a comedic yet paternal figure who tries, though often fails, to keep the rowdy T-Birds in check. 17. Jeff Conaway had a crush on Olivia and later married her sister. Jeff Conaway harbored a massive crush on Olivia Newton-John. He'd stammer around her, losing lines mid-sentence. Off-camera, that puppy love vibe was a running joke. Fate took a twist later when Conaway met and married Olivia's sister, Rona. For a few years, he was Newton-John's brother-in-law, an odd extension of that Grease family dynamic. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't last, but it remains a curious footnote in the film's mythology. 18. Lorenzo Lamas hated bleaching his hair for Tom Chisholm. Lorenzo Lamas portrayed Tom Chisholm, Sandy's mild love interest. He had to bleach his hair blonde, a procedure he detested, insisting it burned his scalp and required constant retouching. He griped that he'd never bleach again. Still, he appreciated the cameo's exposure. Grease gave him a stepping stone to further soap opera fame, though, ironically, he'd find himself bleaching hair again for roles that demanded a certain Hollywood aesthetic. 19. Travolta's sister Ellen had a cameo and sang on the soundtrack. Travolta's sister Ellen has a cameo as a waitress at the Frosty Palace, the teen hangout. She also contributed background vocals for some doo-wop tracks on the soundtrack. Travolta teased her that if he was the star in front of the camera, she was the star behind the microphone. It was a small family tie that added to the sense that Grease was a close-knit production, with everyone plugging in their talents in unexpected places. 20. The carnival finale was a real scramble under intense heat. For the carnival finale, they brought in actual carnival rides, but only for a few days. The cast had to scramble, filming entire group dance numbers like We Go Together amidst loud music and crowds. On camera, it looks like joyful spontaneity, but in reality, they raced the clock, finishing in swirling midday heat. The pink cotton candy clouds you see overhead were dyed prop fluff pinned around the set, giving the carnival a surreal, celebratory glow that matched the film's final dose of sweetness. 21st. Hopelessly Devoted to You was filmed after production wrapped. Hopelessly Devoted to You came after principal photography ended. Producers felt Sandy needed a heartfelt solo. Olivia Newton-John recorded the track, and they quickly filmed a backyard poolside scene with minimal set dressing. That lightning-fast approach belied how crucial the song would be. It soared on the charts, netting the film an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song. Newton-John said she cherished that number, seeing it as Sandy's moment of vulnerable confession. 22. The pink clouds in the finale were dyed and pinned cotton. The pink clouds in the finale were dyed with food coloring, pinned in place to create a whimsical fairground atmosphere. The entire carnival was meant to evoke a pastel dreamland, emphasizing the film's shift from high school drama to fairy tale romantic triumph. The director wanted the final note to be purely uplifting, sending audiences out on a sugar high. People might have questioned the abrupt fantasy of a flying car, but Grease by then was all about teenage wish fulfillment, so logic took a back seat to magic. 23. Paramount rushed the release after strong test screenings. Grease tested so well with preview audiences that Paramount advanced the release to June 1978, capitalizing on summer's teenage crowd. The hype soared, with marketing focusing on the star power of Travolta and Newton-John's chart success. They also teased the vibrant soundtrack in radio ads. The plan worked. Within days, it was a full-blown box-office tsunami, unstoppable as roller skates, disco floors, and poodle skirts took over pop culture for a moment. 24. The soundtrack became a radio sensation worldwide. You're the One That I Want and Summer Nights topped charts worldwide, turning Travolta and Newton-John into pop icons. Millions of fans who never saw the stage show discovered these songs through radio. The synergy between film scenes and radio hits was unstoppable, with everyone humming along in cars or at parties. The cross-media success echoed Saturday Night Fever's disco mania, proving musicals could dominate in the age of rock and disco. 25. Critics were divided, but fans turned Grease into a phenomenon. Some dismissed Grease as silly nostalgia that trivialized real teenage issues. Others praised its effervescent energy and cunning blend of 50s innocence with 70s flamboyance. The public, however, decided resoundingly that they loved it. Word of mouth soared. It became a phenomenon at drive-ins, midnight screenings, and eventually living rooms once videotapes rolled out. The cast was astonished at the wave of fan mail, especially from teens who embraced the film as a comedic reflection of the high school experience. 26. Travolta jokingly mixed disco and doo-wop on set. Travolta liked to fool around on set by reenacting Saturday Night Fever dance steps between scenes, often in his T-bird jacket. Olivia Newton-John would roll her eyes, half laughing, teasing him that he was overshadowing their Grease moves with disco flair. Yet their friendly banter fueled the comedic chemistry that leapt off the screen whenever Danny and Sandy locked eyes. For all the tension the script gave them, the real-life vibe was playful, forging a believable romantic tension. 27. Producer Alan Carr's dream of sequels fizzled after Grease 2. Producer Alan Carr envisioned Grease as a springboard for multiple sequels exploring teenage music phases across decades, 50s, 60s, 70s. But Grease 2, starring Michelle Pfeiffer, flopped in 1982 effectively killing that dream. Carr blamed the rushed production and lack of star pull. The original cast's cameo ideas never came to fruition, leaving Grease 2 a pale shadow. Still, Grease remained a standalone gem. Over time, talk of further sequels fizzled, though stage revivals and live TV musicals kept the brand alive. 28. Frankie Valli and Barry Gibb teamed up for the disco title track. Legendary singer Frankie Valli crooned the disco-tinged title track Grease, penned by Bee Gees maestro Barry Gibb. Spielberg had no involvement here, obviously, but the synergy between Gibb's pop sensibilities and Valli's falsetto created a track bridging 70s disco with 50s doo-wop vibes. This opener sets the tone for a film that leaps across eras. The immediate groovy beat signaled to 1978 audiences that Grease would be nostalgic, but with a contemporary twist. 29. Parents and teachers criticized the film's rebellious themes. Some older folks criticized Grease for sexual innuendos, chain smoking, and teen rebellion. They argued it glamorized rebellious behavior and trivialized serious teenage issues. Pregnancy scares, dropping out, identity crises. Younger audiences, however, latched onto it as a breezy, comedic snapshot of adolescence, where problems are overshadowed by big hair, bigger songs, and the pursuit of a dream date. Even educators hopped into the debate, some banning Grease from school events. That controversy ironically heightened the film's allure, making rebellious teens adore it even more. Today, Grease endures as a breezy, timeless classic. High schools around the world stage musicals derived from it. Fans show up to sing-along screenings clad in pink jackets or black leather, belting out "We Go Together" with unabashed enthusiasm. The film's bright tunes, comedic romance, and nostalgic sheen keep it fresh for new generations who stumble upon the DVD or streaming version. Even a newcomer can sense the cast's real glee, dancing under scorching lights in 1950s costumes, forging a cultural legacy that outlasted them all. Indeed, Grease remains the word, a word that still is fresh, fun, and delightfully rebellious as it was in 1978.